The metal fabrication industry is one of the most complicated industry with regards to the process involved in delivering the finished goods to the customer. The processes cannot be 100% automated, or a high level of automation is not possible. There are some key processes which definitely requires manual intervention, and automation is not possible. Right from sourcing of raw material, which is basically steel sheets or plates or pipes, to storing inventory where there are multiple material which has different heat codes, batch numbers, offcuts, full and fresh material has challenges. Further, coming to production, which involves multi-stage bill of material, to having stage-wise inspection or having rework to be done in multiple stages. All these adds more complication to the process. Now, all that I said makes the metal fabrication industry one of the most challenging candidate to adopt an ERP like SAP. Hi, my name is Raman and I'm from Emerging Alliance and certified SAP channel partner, implementing SAP Business One for large, medium and small size fabrication companies globally. In my experience of working with more than 50 plus fabrication companies, which involves light fabrication companies, heavy fabrication companies, turnkey fabrication companies, or project-based fabrication companies, I have come across a lot of challenges which has been solved with a lot of experience, iteration and due diligence, and not only solved the problems but implemented SAP Business One successfully. The implementation not only allowed the fabrication company to run their business in an ERP application like SAP, but also made sure that SAP Business One contributed to the scalability and growth of the company. In this video, I'm going to explain you the details of how SAP Business One can be implemented for a metal fabrication company. This will include the features, functionalities, modules which are applicable and required for a metal fabrication industry. When I mean details, I'm not going to show you the SAP screens and go in a very detailed fashion, because in screen level detail would mean that this explainer video would require 4 to 5 hours for completion. Our idea in this video is to make sure that you understand the capability of SAP Business One for metal fabrication industry in its breadth and not in its depth. If you require an in-depth explanation of how SAP B1 can be implemented for metal fabrication industry, we will be more than happy to have a private conversation with you or a one-on-one meeting with you. We will split the entire metal fabrication process into 3 cycles. The first one is O2C, which is called as order to cash. This cycle will involve all the process right from the point of quoting to the customer, receiving a confirmed order, getting the stocks and the finished goods ready, invoicing it to the customer and getting the cash. The second cycle is plan to produce. Processes like material requirement planning, order recommendations, creating a production order, issuing of material, completing the production order, doing a stage-wise quality inspection, doing a subcontracting, until the point where the finished goods is produced and ready to go will be part of the cycle. The last cycle is procure to pay cycle, where creating a purchase order, sending it to the supplier, receiving the material through a goods receipt, doing an inward inspection, creating an accounts payable invoice, paying the supplier. This will be included in the procure to pay cycle. Let us see how SAP B1 can be adopted in these 3 cycles required in a metal fabrication industry. Let us see how SAP Business One can be deployed for an order to cash cycle for the metal fabrication industry. Every new order in the metal fabrication industry will start with an inquiry which comes from the customer. So the customer would definitely give you the drawings or the specifications for which he requires a quote. SAP Business One has the DMS functionality. DMS stands for Document Management System, wherein all drawings given to you by the customer can be stored. Might it be a CAD drawing or a Pro E drawing or any kind of drawing can be stored within the SAP system. Once the inquiry is created, the next functionality is estimation. So there's a quotation module wherein an estimation can be created. If you have an Excel file where the estimation is done, you can always attach the Excel file as reference to the estimation module, or you can replicate the Excel formulas or the Excel format in the estimation screen so that you don't have to have any third-party application like Excel. Both can be done. Once the estimation is completed, The final values of the estimation can be plugged into the quotation, and the quotation can be created in a layout or a format which is required as per the company's norms. Once the estimation is completed, the values available in the estimation can be brought forward to the quotation, and the quotations can be created. The quotation created can be subject to approval. So every transaction in SAP Business One basically has approval, which is nothing but there can be a maker and there can be a checker, or there can be multiple approvals. Approval are of two types in SAP Business One. You can have a workflow based approval wherein person A creates it, B approves it, C super approves it, and so on. There can be about 7-8 levels of approval. Or it can be a value based approval wherein you can have, say, quotations from 5 to 5,000 can go to person A, from 5,000 to 50,000 can go to person B, and 50,000 above can go to person C, and so on. So there are value based approval as well as workflow based approval, or you can even have a combination of both. Now these approvals can come to your own SAP screen on your laptop or desktop for approval, or it can even come on your mobile phones if you're using an iOS or Android. Once the approval is completed, it is time to convert the quote into a layout or into a particular format and send it to the customer. Now, SAP Business One has options where multiple layouts can be created. So you can have layouts by customer category, you can have layouts by industry category. So you can choose which layout you want to print the quote and you can send it to the customer. Not only that, you can have multiple terms and conditions also created. So you can choose which layout and which terms and conditions should go in, and when it gets printed out, so basically SAP has Crystal reports. So all your layouts are basically run on Crystal report. So you can have multiple choice of layouts and multiple choice of terms and conditions, and this will get printed on a Crystal report, which can be converted into a PDF and mailed to customer. The mailing service is also built into SAP, so you can integrate your SAP Business One with any kind of mail service provider, and you can send the quotations directly from inside SAP to your customer or prospect. Once the quote is sent, there might be multiple level of discussion or revision. So all the discussions and its revision can also be maintained in SAP itself. So you can get to see what are the various revisions that has happened, and in each revision, what are the changes. You can even document the discussions that you had moving from one revision to other revision. Those are the major points about quote and its creation and its management in SAP Business One. So once the customer confirms the order, he generally would give you an order confirmation mail or a purchase order. Now that can be stored as a soft copy in the order confirmation screen or sales order screen of SAP Business One. This will help you to make sure that you document the PO sent by the customer or the mail sent by the customer as confirmation. And further to it, you can add the delivery dates, you can add the ship to bill to address, and if there are any payment terms like 30 days, 60 days, if there are any credit terms like 30, 60, 90, you can even add that. And finally have the order confirmation or the sales order posted in SAP Business One. The posting of an order confirmation in SAP Business One will trigger out alerts or mails to customer saying that the order has been confirmed and this will be the delivery date, and to internal people like production department, planning department, that there's a new order which has been received and these are the details of the order. Now if there's an advance payment requirement to the order that you have received, SAP Business One has a down payment feature which allows you to create a pro forma invoice followed by an advance payment request. This advance payment request hits the screen of accounts and they can create an advance payment invoice, and once the payment is made, the receipt for the payment received can be given to the customer and the invoice can be closed, and the intimations and the alerts and mails for these can go to the respective salespeople as well as customers. The order to cash cycle cannot be completed until unless you have the finished goods readily available in the warehouse to be invoiced. So we'll go to the next cycle, which is the produce to plan cycle, where necessary actions will be taken to get these stocks or finished goods ready. Now that the order has been received and the respective advance payment has also been collected, it is time for starting the production. This is where the plan to produce cycle will start. So the first process is design or engineering. So if the metal fabrication company has an in-house design or engineering department, so they basically create the drawing and populate the bill of material. And this bill of material can be created in SAP Business One as an item master with bill of material. When the bill of material is created, information like the part numbers, the descriptions, the unit of measure, the quantity, all of these are fed into the item master along with the bill of material detail by the engineering department. If required, a detailed drawings can also be attached to the item master, as SAP Business One has the DMS capability. Not only that, if there is any revisions to the drawings, even those can be maintained inside SAP Business One itself. Once the engineering department creates the item master and bill of material, it's time for planning department to do the MRP, which is the next functionality. MRP stands for Material Requirement Planning. Now, MRP is like the brain of SAP Business One because it's a very sophisticated transaction and it kind of reduces a lot of manpower which is required for creating the finished goods and delivering to customer. So what a MRP does is it considers the list of items which are available in the open sale order or which are available if you generate a forecast. What a MRP does is it comes up with a list of items which are available either in a forecast. If you're a company which has forecast of non-confirmed items, then forecast is also considered, and items available in open sale order. It builds a list of this and checks for this particular item what are the list of raw material required to be procured or to be bought. Now when doing so, it checks what is the already existing stock available for those raw material. Is it short or is it available in surplus? Not only that, it also checks if for those short raw material, are there purchase orders available in the system. It then creates an order recommendation list. The order recommendation list has two categories. One is the make list, the other one is buy list. For all the items which are bought from outside the company, it creates a buy list which is either created as a purchase request or a purchase order. For all the items which are fabricated or created or built within the company, it creates a make list which is then converted into a production order. Now once the planning department verifies the order recommendation list and finds it's fine, then they can update it or post it. So what happens is the purchase department gets all the items to be procured as a purchase request or purchase order right in their screen, and the production department gets all the production orders that they need to process to deliver the finished goods right in their screen. Well, both of these departments do get an intimation. Their screens get populated by a purchase request or a purchase order. Now, what I just said right now in material requirement planning, if it has to be done manually, it's a very tedious job and it is not a scalable action at all. The more item codes you have, the more part numbers you have, and the longer the bill of material, this task of doing a manual material requirement planning becomes very, very tedious, and it consumes a lot of people and a lot of man resources, and is definitely not scalable. This is where an application like SAP Business One comes very handy because it's completely automated. The plan to produce cycle cannot be completed until and unless all the raw material required for production is completely made available. So we'll move on to the next cycle, which is the procure to pay cycle. The procure to pay cycle starts with purchase request or purchase order. So when the planning department finishes its MRP run, the output is basically a purchase request or a purchase order which hits the procurement team's screen. Now, a purchase officer can convert the purchase request into a purchase order, or if there is a requirement to send out an RFQ, a request for quote, to multiple vendors and collect the quote, then SAP Business One also has that functionality built into SAP Business One. So you can convert a purchase request to an RFQ, or you can directly convert a purchase request into a purchase order. Now, as explained during quotation or sales order, even purchase module has approvals. So you can either have a workflow based approval or a value based approval. Once the purchase order is approved, the purchase orders can be released to the supplier and through a mail. It will go as a PDF, and you can have multiple layouts of the purchase order, and you can also have multiple terms and conditions. So the layouts will get printed in PDF and will get automatically mailed from SAP Business One to the supplier. Once the purchase order are received at the supplier end, the supplier basically sends you the raw material. The raw material gets received into an SAP Business One system through the GRPO functionality, which is nothing but goods receipt against purchase order. So the receipts can be either partial or full. If it's a partial receipt, then the purchase order is open. Until unless the full quantity is received, the purchase order will be always be shown as pending. Now, when the receipt is done, there might be some changes, like there might be a price change or a quantity change. So for any kind of changes with regards to the base document, which is purchase order, the entire cycle has to go for a reapproval. Let's say that you bought something at a higher price than what a PO was released for, then the purchase order will go for another approval. Or if the quantity received is more than what is mentioned in the purchase order, then it will go for an reapproval. So this is systems security to make sure that an approved document is honored. Well, in a metal fabrication industry, there is always a chance of receiving slightly higher in terms of raw material or lower. So SAP Business One has the capability of setting up a tolerance limit wherein you can say plus or minus 10% is allowable, and the system accepts the stock without going in for an reapproval. Metal fabrication companies which basically require traceability can record the batch number or heat number of the steel plates or steel sheets or steel pipes by making it mandatory in the item master. So the batch number or heat number is recorded in the system when the items are or the raw materials are brought in. And the same is maintained when it is issued to production, and finally when the finished goods is built and sent to the customer also. So there is 100% traceability maintained in SAP Business One. Once the material is successfully received in the warehouse, the material cannot be issued to production until unless it is inspected. So the next functionality is inspection. To be specific, incoming inspection. While creating the item master, we can clearly designate or indicate if an item is part of the inspection category or non-inspect category. All inspection category items will have parameters against which the inspection have to be done. Once inspected against those parameters, the items can be either accepted or rejected. So the accepted quantity goes to a production warehouse or what is called as an accepted stores, and the rejected quantity basically goes to a quarantine warehouse or a quality stores. Further to it, if there is a process where a non-material confirmation report has to be generated, or you want to segregate the rejected items as good and bad and further send only rejected items to the supplier, all those things can also be done in the inspection module. Once the inspection is done, the accounts payable invoice is created, which is the next feature, AP invoice. So the invoice is created for all the accepted items, and if there's a rejected item, for those items a credit note is created, and the respective GST documentation and the return delivery note is also created in the system. For the accepted item, the outgoing payment can be done through SAP Business One, and the payment details can be mailed directly from SAP Business One to the vendor. Now that the raw materials have been received in the warehouses, let's go back to the plan to produce cycle. We had left it at MRP or planning stage there. We have the list of production orders which needs to be executed listed in the production user screen. Note that all these production orders have two stages, a plan stage and a release stage. When it is in the plan stage, everyone in the production department can view it but cannot take action on it. Only if it is released, then we can start executing the production order. This is to ensure that control is maintained in the production environment. So for all the production orders which is in a plan stage, the production supervisor or the production department basically opens the production order, looks at what are the various raw material required and what is the quantity of raw material required for producing the production order, and if that is available in stock or not. Now let's assume that from the procure to pay cycle, the stocks have come inside and the production order has the required stock to execute the order. Now there are three types of production order which are available for the metal fabrication industry in SAP Business One. The first one is a standard production order wherein you can issue the material to the production order through a stores, and once the production is completed, you can receive the material and the production order will take account of the raw material consumed and the finished goods produced and its back-end journal postings. That is standard production order. You also have a special production order exclusively developed by us for the metal fabrication industry, wherein you can have one single input and you can get multiple output. Now this is specifically required in places where you basically take a large metal sheet and do the nesting and create smaller piece parts through a laser cutting process or a flame cutting process or a plasma cutting process. Now, that's not something which is standard in SAP Business One. We, from our expertise in this metal fabrication industry for more than 10 plus years, have developed this particular production add-on, which converts a single plate into multiple smaller piece parts. The third type of production order is a multi-level BOM production order. Now, what this production order does is every metal fabrication industry has a multi-level BOM. The raw material basically comes together to be welded into small sub-assemblies, and these sub-assemblies get welded or get fastened to larger assemblies, and finally the finished goods is produced. So we have a multi-level BOM in most of the metal fabrication industry, and this production order helps to achieve the multi-level BOM in just one screen. The way this particular multi-level BOM production order works is in one screen the entire BOM and its processes are reflected, and the stages or routing are also sequenced. So what happens is once a stage or routing is completed, it goes to the next stage and further next stage and so on. And during completion of each stage, the respective raw materials are consumed through the bill of material at the back end, and the semi-finished goods required for the next stage is produced. Not only that, during each stages, there's also a stage-wise quality available wherein the parameters are loaded and the inspections can be done against those parameters, and the accepted and rejected quantity can also be created. The first and last production order that I mentioned, the standard production order or the multi-level BOM production order, can be used to create the finished goods. Now that the finished goods have been created, we'll go back to the order to cash cycle where it can be invoiced. The finished goods made available from plan to produce cycle is basically available and ready to be invoiced. So the pending sale order or open sale order can now be converted into an invoice, and during the invoice creation process, if there are batch numbers or serial number applicable, those can also be selected in the invoice. So what happens is once the invoice is created, the invoice will also have the details of the serial number or batch number of the finished goods, and a complete traceability is also established. As in all the other features and functionalities, invoice is also approval based, so you can have multi-level approvals here. You can also have multiple layouts by customer group or by various industries, and multiple terms and conditions also. One path-breaking functionality, if I have to mention about SAP Business One, is Gross Profit Analyzer. Now this functionality helps you to review the profitability of an invoice before it is printed and sent to the customer. Now that's an eye-opener or an excellent functionality wherein you can ask a system like SAP Business One, what was the price at which I received the order? What was my production plan to achieve the price? And what was my actuals? And at the end of the invoice, what is the profitability that I'm getting? So you will get a stage-wise report of quoted versus planned versus actuals. Now this functionality in particular will help small and medium businesses to move from looking at the P&L at the end of the period to looking at your P&L at an invoice level. Not only that, if there is a compromise in profitability, you can drill down to find out where has the profitability been compromised. Is it in the procurement stage or is it in the production stage? In production, is it because of excess of raw material or is it because of excess manpower or repair? You can get to the exact point where the problem has occurred, which has compromised in the profitability. Now, this is the kind of functionality that every company requires to go to the next stage. Application like SAP gives you that kind of control and power. Once the invoice is sent to the customer aging starts. So if there's a credit term of 30, 60, 90, the customer aging cycle starts, and based on the due date, the system can basically generate an alert, or it can create a calendar, or it can even send a reminder to customer to pay the due payments. Once the payment is received from the customer, the incoming payment receipt is created and it can be mailed directly from SAP Business One to the customer. It's a PDF output which gets generated and gets mailed to the customer. I have explained you in this video all the three cycles involved in the metal fabrication industry and various modules and features in SAP Business One which can cater to all these three cycles which is required for the metal fabrication industry. If you are from a metal fabrication industry and you have issues in implementing an SAP solution, you can always reach out to us. For that matter, if you are evaluating an ERP application and looking for an ERP application, we'll be more than happy to have a one-on-one conversation with you and do a proof of concept or do a demo of your company's requirement in SAP and show it to you so that your confidence really improves on what SAP Business One can achieve for the metal fabrication industry. We have provided a link or an email in the description. You can use that to get in contact with us, and we will be more than happy to help any kind of metal fabrication company with regards to any kind of ERP or SAP in specific. Once again, thanks for taking your time to watch this detailed video, and look forward to meeting you in one more video.